Today's lesson is on radicals. We're sticking with the same Unit 6 unit that we started yesterday. We're going to add, subtract, multiply polynomial radicals. So these will have more than one expression to work with. Okay. What we want to do is when we look at the first page of notes, I guess the smartboard will catch up in just a second. We're going to add and subtract radicals. What I mean is we're going to add and subtract the numbers in front. So we first of all have to find what's called like terms. What I mean is kind of like adding x's and y's. You can only add x terms to x terms. You can only add y terms to y terms. So we kind of have to say the same thing here. You can only add or subtract if what is underneath is considered the same. So I have square root of 3 and square root of 3. Those are considered like terms, okay? They have the same thing under the square root. So 2 square root of 3 and 5 square root of 3, those two terms are alike. So it's kind of like what happens if you have x's. So if I had 2x's plus 5x's, then I would only add or subtract the numbers in front, and I would get 7x's. These are square roots of 3, but you still treat them the same way. So these two terms are considered alike, okay? And because they are considered alike or like terms, I can add the numbers in front. So 2 plus 5 is 7 square roots of 3. Plus 5 is not the same, so I just have to keep it as part of my answer. The final answer is 7 square roots of 3 plus 3 square roots of 5. Let's look for like terms. It turns out square root of 11, square root of 11, square root of 11. They're all alike. So this time, all of these are like. They're all alike. So I can add or subtract the numbers in front. So we'll say 3 plus 6 is 9, minus 2 is 7. So the answer is 7 square roots of 11. You don't add or subtract what's under the square root. You only add or subtract the numbers out in front. So 7 square root of 11. Number 3. First of all, let's look for like terms. 9 square root of 7, 5 square root of 7. Also take notice of the sign in front. That says plus 5, so that's a positive 5. So 9 plus 5 makes 14 square roots of 7. And then I have negative 4 plus 3 square root of 2. So they both have square root of 2, so those two are alike. So that would give me negative 1 square roots of 2. Do not add or subtract what's underneath, only the numbers in front. You do not actually have to show the 1. You could also say 14 square root of 7 minus square root of 2. It's the same thing. The coefficient in front of the square root is understood to be a 1. Remember, it's kind of like with variables. So when I say it's kind of like variables, if you have a 3 in front of x, it's kind of like 3 in front of like square root of 2. Okay? If you just have x, then there's understood to be a 1 there. Okay? But if you have square root of 2 with nothing in front, it's understood to be a 1 there also. So like variables is how we try to look at square roots. Okay? Kind of in the same way we do with variables. All right, let's go to number 4. Let's add and subtract like terms. So I have 6 square roots of 7, 2 square roots of 7. That gives me 4 square roots of 7. I'm only going to add and subtract the numbers in front. Minus 1 square root of 3 plus 4 square root of 3. You add those numbers, you get plus 3 square roots of 3. Those two parts, both added together, make the answer. Number 5. Now what happens is you may have to simplify first. And I think that is in your notes, but you may have to simplify what's underneath first and then evaluate whether or not you can work with it. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, board went. All right. Now, I'm going to break down 27. Remember, we're looking for squares. Look for squares. So 9 is the biggest square times 3. So if you take the square root of 9, it comes out as a 3. Don't forget to multiply out front. So when you multiply out front, you end up with 12. And what stays under the square root is a 3. All right, 48. Remember, look for your squares. Go to 48, work backwards. 36 doesn't go, 25 doesn't go, but 16 goes 3 times. So 16 times 3 16 squared of 16 is 4. Bringing out a 4. You multiply, you get minus 8, and what's left underneath is a 3. All right. 20 breaks down into 4 times 5. Square root of 4 comes out as a 2. You have another 2 out there, so it's going to be a 4 out front. And what's left underneath is a 5. Now, I do have things that are alike. I did not have things that were alike in the beginning, but now I do. So I can go ahead and actually add and subtract the numbers in front. 12 squared root of 3 minus 8 squared root of 3 turns out to be 4 squared root of 3 plus 4 squared root of 5. So if at first it looks like you don't have anything alike, check and see if you can go to your numbers and find things that you can simplify. 6, let's see if we can simplify. 50 breaks down into 25 times 2. 32 breaks down into 16 times 2. 48 breaks down into 16 times 3. You've got to kind of get the habit of looking for squares. Square root of 25 comes out as a 5. 16 comes out as a 4. Square root of 16 comes out again as a 4. When I have numbers already out front, I multiply. So I have 30 out front, and what's left is my 2. Plus, keep the same sign. Okay, 3 and 4 out front makes 12. What's left underneath is my 2. 4 is the only thing out front because there wasn't already a different number out there, and 3 is underneath. Now that I have simplified them, now I can go ahead and add, and the first 2 are alike. Since they are alike, I can go ahead and add or subtract the numbers in front. 30 plus 12 is 42, square root of 2, minus 4, square root of 3. All right, number 7. We can look and see right now I have square root of 50 and square root of 5. Those are not alike. But if I try to break it down, maybe I'll find something that is. 50 breaks down into 25 times 2. Square root of 25 comes out as a 5. 5 times 3 out there makes 15. And what's left is the square root of 2 minus 4, square root of 5. Even though I tried to simplify the 50 and I ended up with a 2, these are not alike. Since they're not alike, I cannot do anything else with it. And this becomes my final answer. 15 root 2 minus 4 root 5, or square root. You can say square root or root. Now we're coming up to the part where we need to simplify. And of course, parentheses times parentheses means to multiply. Here you have 2 terms. Also over here you have 2 terms. So I am multiplying a binomial times a binomial. I'm going to end up with 4 terms. So I'm going to end up doing a lobster claw like we've done in the past. So let's see if we can remember how to do lobster claw or FOIL method. I'm going to start with square root of 2 and multiply it by the first, then square root of 2 times the second. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to multiply square root of 5 times the first and square root of 5 times the second. The same procedure when I had x's, but now that I have square roots, I now know how to multiply and add square roots so I can work with that. Okay, let's see what we get. Square root of 2 times square root of 5, or square root of 3, excuse me. I'm going to erase just to make it clean and work it fresh. All right, square root of 2 times square root of 3. Square root's underneath, 3's underneath, so that gives me 6 underneath. Square root of 2 times square root of 2. 2's underneath, 2's underneath. It's going to give me positive 4 underneath because that was a positive times a positive. That's actually going to work out to be a perfect square. So in a minute, I'm going to take that out and bring that out as just a 2. All right. Now that I've multiplied everything by square root of 2, now I'm going to multiply everything by square root of 5. Square root of 5 underneath times square root of 3, which is underneath, is going to be plus square root of 15 and keeping it underneath. Square root of 5 times square root of 2. Again, keeping what's multiplied underneath the square root, I get 10. I have a 6 underneath. This is going to end up being a 2. This is a 15 underneath, and then I have a 10 underneath. None of these are alike. This is a 6, this is just a whole number, this is a 15, this is a 10. None are alike, so this represents your final answer. When we did lobster claw in the past, we typically had terms that would add together. We just don't have that in this problem. All right. Again, lobster claw, outside times outside, inside times inside. 2 on the outside, 4 on the outside is 8. 3 on the inside, 3 on the inside is 9 on the inside. 2 square root of 3 times 6. You can always assume there's a 1 out front. 2 on the outside, 1 on the outside, and that's a negative 1, so it's going to be negative 2. 3 on the inside, 6 on the inside, 18 on the inside. Okay. Everything's been multiplied by square root of 2, square root of 3. Now let's multiply everything by 3 root 5. Multiply. 3 on the outside, 4 on the outside is positive 12. 5 on the inside and 3 on the inside is positive, or 15, under a square root. Now multiply times this. Positive 3 times negative 1 makes negative 3. 5 on the inside, 6 on the inside puts me 30 on the inside. Gotta take your time and find your pieces. All right, it turns out square root of 9 is a perfect square. So if it's a perfect square, I can go ahead and bring it out. Square root of 9 comes out as a 30. So I get 3 times 8, which is 24. 18 breaks down into 9 times 2, so 9 comes out as a 3. 3 times 2 on the outside means minus 6, but I still have a square root with a 2 in it. 15 won't break down, 30 won't break down, so plus 12, root 15, minus 3, root 30. None of these are alike. That's as far as we can go. All right, next problem. Same thing. 4 square root of 2 times 6. I can pretend there's a 1 there. 4 times 1 is 4. 2 underneath, 6 underneath is 12. Here I do not have a square root. So I have a 4 out front, a 2 out front. That's going to be positive 8. But you got to make sure you keep the square root of 2 and just carry it along because it was part of the first factor. All right, negative 1 square root of 3 times square root of 6. Negative 1, positive 1 is negative 1. Square root of 3 and square root of 6 is square root of 18. Square root of 3 times 2. Oh, this only has something inside. This only has something outside. So I'm just going to keep both parts. So it's going to be minus, because that's a negative, times a positive. So it's going to be negative 2 square root of 3. So basically I just keep the 2 and I keep the 3 and I just bring those two parts together.